If you're a heat and air conditioning technician, plumber, roofer, electrician, what is a phrase you got to be aware of from a buyer, and why does this matter? This is a super important question. I'm Scott Sylvan Bell, coming to you live for HVAC Technician Sales Secrets on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. And one of the phrases, right? One of the phrases I want you to be aware of that could be dangerous in your industry comes from buyers when they're just having a conversation with you and they're just a little bit nervous. They want to tell you something, but they don't know that they're giving you a clue. So sometimes your buyer talks in clues and doesn't even know it. And this phrase is the independent guy. You're like, Scott, really? The independent guy? How does that affect me? Oh. Well, first, you should join HVACTechSecrets.com. I'll give you the goods, not in the Facebook group, not in the YouTube channel. And second, what you need to know is the independent guy is meant to be somebody at a lower price. Now, I'm not knocking an independent guy one bit. Almost every in-home services starts with what we call a chuck in a truck, a dude in a truck, right? A dude in a van. Nothing wrong with that. That's how almost every company in the town that you're in got started. But the belief is that somebody who is a chuck in a truck or somebody who is a smaller company is going to have a lesser price, and that could be true. And that could be true, but there's also a danger to it, and the danger is the propensity for a smaller business to go out of business. So I'm going to give you a stat. The average business in heating and air has 3 employees and does less than $750,000 every year. And the average company lasts 39 months. They're able to get through about 2.5 years, 2.5 years of business, and then realize like it's hard. Marketing is hard. Business is hard. Getting people to calls is hard. The cost of gas goes up. The cost of insurance goes up. And if you're in California, they tax you on everything here. So this could be a play for them. And this is the belief. Like if I call out your company, your organization, and you work for a bigger company, then what's going to happen is you're going to have the resources that the smaller guy doesn't have, right? Funny, it works this way. The resources that you have is skills, talents, capability, and knowledge about the scope of work and about the scope of the job. And so when you're walking around and doing your walk and talk with your buyer and you're having your conversation, realize that every once in a while they'll say, hey, I'm having an independent guy. Independent guy means this 99% of the time. I realize that you work for a good company. I realize that you know what you're doing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your proposal and I'm going to see if my independent guy with the lower overhead can do the same thing. And chances are pretty good. Chances are very good that most of the time, that's the thought, right? This person has a pre-existing relationship. So one of the questions that I developed that you can ask is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, as we take a look at this, do you have a preferred vendor for this job? And then just stop talking. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm just kind of curious at this time in this juncture, do you have a preferred vendor for this job? Now, there's a couple of answers. No is like, okay, probably 80% there. No, like definite is like, no, they don't have a preferred vendor. And if they give you any of the, well, maybe there is a high chance. There's a high chance that your role and responsibility in their mind is to give a scope of work to make sure that chuck in a truck, once again, nothing wrong with that. Like I'm not knocking it, but it's how the industry works, is scoping out the right line of work or details for them so that they know in their head, like, oh, you have the resources to do this, but they don't, but they're at a lower price, right? So just something to be aware of. The independent guy, right, could be a play for you to be doing a scope of work and for you to not be getting business. So you have a couple of options. You can give a detailed scope of work and realize that a lot of times that is going to be given to the competitor, or you're just using it as a stalking horse. Or at the end of the day, when you do this, you could be a little bit more vague, right? Increase airflow instead of enlarge return. You can say deal with a refrigerant situation instead of new refrigerant line. This is entirely up to you. Your version may be different than my version, but be aware that the independent guy, has a huge chance of you not doing business with that homeowner or that buyer, because your scope of work is the outline for their job to be done. You got one of two things to do from here. Just one of two. Find the subscribe button, click on it. Every time I send out a video, you'll get an update. That's all you got to do. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.